I'm Rich Carl, the creator of FM Trend TV. You folks are awesome because you are here. Let's talk about the upcoming broadcast schedule. I'm going to hit the button right here. So today is interesting. We're going to be trying to help everyone with, once again, the idea of this conversation about writing scripts and the mental mindset that goes into that. It's like anchor buoy. I've got some basic concrete rules if you follow that you'll get to learn, understand how this stuff works. Then you don't really need to be super regimented. You can solve things creatively once you start to understand how it works. But if you can mentally put yourself in the right place and answer questions about what you're trying to do, then you can tell FileMaker how to create the report for you. It's such an important thing. I'm just going to pivot forward here real quick for everyone. I'm going to drop into FileMaker over here. All right, so issues with writing scripts. Once again, we've talked about this before. It's the mechanics of writing scripts. Let me just cover this real quick. This is such an essential thing. We're writing scripts. The trick with the script, the secret of life, is to pretend you're telling your friend or a coworker how to perform the activity. Okay, so if people say, well, it's too much to handle, that once again, I'll repeat the old joke. How do you eat an elephant? Once again, I don't condone eating elephants. They're very smart and wonderful, but that's an old joke. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. You write the script one step at a time. And so the step-by-step process is for you to pretend you're talking to a coworker. The coworker's on the phone, not in a Zoom call. It's an audio-only call. And they ask you how to solve a business process or how to run a report. They need to work. They need this to work immediately. So you need to walk them through on the phone on how to do it. So you can't do it for them. You're going to tell them, go to this layout, enter find mode, type this, press the return key, do a sort, come over here, do this, do that, do it. If you can verbally articulate those sorts of steps to a coworker, you can write a script. And so today's conversation is very similar to what we've done before, but it's a little different now. So the question came up the other day. And so I want to talk about this. Here's the next scenario. I'm going to go down here at the bottom of this, and here's the next scenario. So this is a real scenario that happened yesterday or the day before. So customer, we go to a customer. I'm going to go to the very bottom down here. Can I put a return key? This thing kind of being stupid. Come down here. Okay, so here's what the customer says to me. I took screenshots of what this kind of looked like before and after. How we solved this problem the other day, right? Everyone remember that? And these are screenshots of the sample file where we said, let's duplicate invoice. Let's take an invoice and turn it into an estimate, or estimate into an invoice, that kind of thing. And there were some basic techniques in here that we learned. So the scenario is customer asked for a report, and then they were confused when they saw what they asked for. And that's kind of a funny thing that happens in the world of development, or anytime you're building something for someone, especially if it's done verbally, right? And I think this was for them. And once again, this is this BVA customer, Big Valley Aviation customer. They asked for a report, show me the time work entries on a project. They call it a work order. They're working on an aircraft of some type, and we need to see the time entries for that. So there is a table. So they want to see a time entry report. And so what they received was what they asked for, but it didn't make sense to them. So as a developer, it's beneficial to get out a piece of paper and a pen and draw pictures of this. I always talk about this with people a lot, even when designing layouts, but designing a report is super important, to have the customer draw a picture and show me kind of what it looks like. And we end up giving them a basic report. And what was confusing about the report, and I will show this to everyone here. I'm going to open this up. So what they have is they asked for this report. Oh, I need to install MBS plugin. Oh, that's awesome. We had that conversation yesterday. It's been installed successfully. Great. So let me just quit it. I'm going to make myself somewhat smaller real quick over here. I'm going to quit this and then try to reopen it real quick. When you install a plugin, having it auto go live in active memory, to me, has always been something that either worked or didn't work. And so I always quit the app and reopen it to ensure that it is operating correctly. In fact, today I am writing a check to Christian Schmidt for 20 of my staff to have, just to give you an idea how cheap this stuff is, 20 developers using the Monkey Bread plugin, and one license for the Dyna PDF, and other customers would need it, but it's a license for us. $245 for the year, less than a copy of FileMaker. How awesome is that? I love inexpensive software. So we pop over into here. I'm going to go over to this record right here. I'm going to take a look at this, not this one. Let me go down to the bottom down here. Let me try this one down here. What I'm looking for. So let me go and find out where they had some time. Okay, here's a great one for time entries. In fact, this is a practice one right here. So what they do is that we did, and we could also discuss, there's multiple challenges here with this. One was that here's a project. These are the items on the project we're doing. I want to put time entries on this specific GWiz item right here. So we built this little box over called timesheets. It allows you to add a timesheet entry. So you can add, there's one of their new people there. He worked 2 hours, whatever, on this date and time and whatever. And so this is some additional telemetry over here for me, but mostly the customer would want to know this piece over here. And we say save and close. And it updates it, it puts it up in here. So the one part of the conversation was, how would I build that? And I don't know how many of you are interested in that conversation, but what ended up happening after that is that the customer then normally will run a discrepancy report that I'm going to create a PDF of this report right here. And they would, if they bring this up, they're going to hit this button. It pops up this document right here. So this is discrepancy 1 over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So here they are. Right? And so they're like, okay, that makes sense. But this doesn't have any time entries on it. But what if I want to get a time report? And they go, well, so they asked me, said, just give me a list. I said, why don't we just start with a list of everything over here, all these time entries that are associated with this work order. And they're like, yeah, good idea. That's great. So so we come over here and I press, not that button, this button right here. This is the discrepancy report. This is the time. It's all it is these records over here. Preview that. No time entered. What? Oh, I'm on a different record. How I jumped records here. How did I jump records? I must have clicked by accident. Okay, right here. I have some time entries here. Press this button, preview. So this is what they get. And this is what they asked for. The idea was that, well, I did a time entry and I worked on this project. This is the one that says, this one right here, okay? And then this person worked on it, and then maybe the person worked on it again a different day, because you could have something very simple like glued down the carpet on the bottom of the helicopter because the carpet was peeling up. But then you might have something like, oh, pull the turbine jet engine out, send it out for overhaul, bring it back. That's multiple time entries on multiple days. And the problem was it kept repeating this over here, and it was throwing them off. It was throwing them off. So verbally, what they wanted to see is they want to see a time entry report, but it needs to be clear. We want to see once again, projects. They have these individual things that we're doing in projects, so they're line items of the project. With this customer, they call them discrepancies, but we want to see a specific line item of a project, and then below that, they want to, the customer wants to see the related time. I'm going to say the word related time. They didn't use that word, but the time associated with that description. So where over here on this one, it was every time entry, it was a full description over here, right? Like if I'm over here and let me see, it can prove and approved. I'm going to move it back to pending review, RDC. So they have this box in here, and blah blah blah, and we did this, and then the rubber ducky came off, then we painted, then Canberra 50 said that we can't have nuclear weapons attached to helicopter, and the FAA said we could have nuclear weapons attached to helicopter, blah blah blah, and then we have all these time entries, okay? We come over here, we add another time entry, okay? Oh, Richard Carlton's going to work on this some more, right? And I put myself in here just as a test record, 5.5 hours, because hanging a nuke on the end of the helicopter with a missile, I'm sure people have done that before. We just don't get to hear about it. So, so then you run this report, and this is the problem, right? So if you come back over here, so here it prints out the entire thing, And I think it was sorted by the date over here. But they're saying, well, we keep seeing this whole thing like they did this whole thing, but then we see the whole thing over here too, right? And so we want to see this once and then the time entries below that. So you have to be able to articulate and discuss this. And this comes down to this issue of subsummary fields in FileMaker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I run this real quick, I don't know where, because I haven't worked on BVA recently, and I was tasking Margaret with this, and Margaret goes, well, it'd be really great if you showed everyone how to do that, because then you could show me how to do it too. That'd be really wonderful. I know that there's a layout here that this is going to run, and the layout should be, oh, the layouts are
Yeah, the layouts are protected against
the new version of FileMaker. Yeah, I know. That's another conversation we have to have sometime. So I go to layout mode. I can click over here, and I can see. Not
it's
web.
in the 600s.
It's in. Is it discrepancies?
No. Those are my I need to get rid of those. Those are actually did I not move it? That one I know is a copy. That was me testing stuff before I put it on actual
layout mode real quick for everyone. When you go to layout mode, the little tab scroll control isn't here. Right click on the layout mode up here on the status toolbar, customize toolbar, put this back up here. So I'm going to go over here.
Go to L600. I feel like I put them in L600 at some point.
Okay, so we
timesheet standard it's 616. You're looking at it. Yep.
Yep, 616. But see, I don't know that because I'm not that brilliant. So how would we handle this by like a normal human? I'm going to go to browse mode. I'm going to go to work orders. I'm going to go back to the one that we're on. I'm going to turn on the script debugger. Because Margaret here kind of knows that she worked on it, but what if Margaret was tragically hit by a bus yesterday? She's in the hospital in traction and her mouth is wired shut. So we don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to run this and we're going to watch the scripts over here. So it's going to call 1087 is a script. And it's doing stuff on 1087. It's set a bunch of variables here. And 1087 might be the script we actually need. And then it's going to go to L1616. So what I do when I'm normally doing this and I'm coming in after cleanup, and of course I don't have anything here, I get out a pen and paper and I write down the script number and the other, which I should probably do. Oh, there we go. Put pen, pad, paper. All right. So I'm doing this the way that I would do it. So I got L16, 616, L616, and the script was 1087, right? So now you know where the shenanigans are all happening that we want to address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to stop the script. I don't think it stopped it in a bad spot. I'm going to go find the layout. Can't do it there. I got to go to layout mode. So we're down to 616 right here. And what we do is I'm going to layout and I'm going to say duplicate the layout, and I would then go to layout setup, and I don't know where it's going to put it. It's layout, standard multi-page copy, timesheet. I would put sub summary by discrepancy, discrep. And so what I'm doing here is a skill set all of you should have. Most of you probably know how to do it. It's stuck it at the bottom over here. So that's the problem. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to leave it at the bottom, and it's still called, well, something else I'm going to do, layout setup. I'm not going to leave it as L16 like this because we have more than one. I'm going to call it A, little a right here. That's my way of making sure it has a unique number until we resequence it in the future, which theoretically then it would become 617 or 618, right? But I put an A in here for now. And so then I'm going to come over here and I'm like, well, the header was okay. Where'd the PDF go? Is it this one right here?
No, it's the one below that.
Oh, you have a bug. That's a bug I just found because it should look like this. It should say.
No, you're correct.
And then, but then it's, and this should say something about this DISC. or discrepancy report, and this is going to be T time entries, so TE, time entries, TE. So this one right here. So that looks okay. The header looks okay, kind of for the moment. So what I need to do is going to hide that, come back over here. I'm going to say I got the header, I got that. I've got a body part, which for the moment, so the idea is and it's hard for me to draw a picture here of this, but what I want to do is if I draw a big piece of paper here, header, whoop, across the top, then every discrepancy will have a big description, however big it needs to be, and then below that will be the time entries for that description. The customer goes, that's exactly what we need. That makes perfect sense. I'm like, okay, cool. So the idea with this is that we need to take the layout, we duplicate it so we don't cause huge problems retroactively for ourselves, because we always want to roll back without, if I have to call Jacob Taylor and say, hey, Jacob, I blew it. Can you restart from a backup for me? That's a good backup plan to have, but I would prefer not to do that if I didn't have to bother the poor guy, because he's probably working on one of your servers right now. One of you here probably has him working on your server. So I need a sub-summary part in here as a new piece. I click on FileMaker, I go to Layouts, I go to this. So once again, me editorializing as I go here, Layout Setup, Part Setup. These two should be in the same window, okay? If I got a layout setup, you got general views, printing, script triggers, it should be part setup. It's all part of the layout setup. However, Claris, for whatever reason, separates, so it's part setup right here. And so what you have is you have the title header up there, the header there, the body there. So these four here match these four here, okay? I'm gonna add a sub-summary. When sorted by, and we are on the time entries right here. So this is one of those reports that it's not in a portal. So this is kind of an important concept. Margaret, I wanna make sure everyone follows here. So when we were, let me back up. When we were in our other place over here, we were looking at, we were on the project screen, so the base table was projects. Then through a child, we had discrepancies, and then a child off of that, it was a grandchild, was the, can I get a field? No, let me hit done here. If I go to projects over here, this gets back to the anchor buoy stuff, but if I go to work orders, wherever work orders are, here's work orders. Work orders, then we're looking at the discrepancies, which is the TO. So this is the layouts based upon, remember, so I don't think butterflies and bugs is here. If you're here, please say something. Any of you who are new in this, but real simple. The layout is attached to this. The portal we needed was this. And then off of that were time entries. And here are time entries right here. TO8, A4 time entries for the attached by the discrepancy, which makes perfect sense. So this is where, we're on this layout, but when we print the report, we're gonna be on a layout here. So every time entry is a record. So every body part is a record. So over here, even though this is not organized the best, technically, this is a body part. It's repeated for every record, right? And each of these is a record in the time entry table. So this layout is based upon, the layout was either based upon this, right, this layout here, or it's based upon the anchor somewhere else. Somewhere there's probably a time entry. There
it is.
This is it. So it's either the layout. So the layout over here is either T21 or it's TO8A. Right, so TO8, A4. So either one of those would be fine. If it's a report, sometimes I'll just have it generate off of this because the user's not really hanging out there. But once again, as you learn about Anchor Boo and you're better at understanding it, then you can decide which way is better. I initially did it this way, and I think I rewired it to T21 because I got myself confused in my own head, and Margaret was confused. So it was simple just to go to related record from through here, through here, but then the jump to the layout that's over here. So it wasn't a tog hop, but we did go to a related record, but then the destination was a different table occurrence group, right? So hopefully we spent a lot of time on it. Hopefully that makes sense to people. So I'm going to say cancel on the change. I want to discard any changes I made. And we're up right here. We're attached to T21. So we start off on TO8, and I say print this report, there's somewhere in that code that says go to related record. Most certainly. Although I might have done it with a search. A lot of times people go, well, Richard, why wouldn't you use go to related record versus search? Search is easier for newer people like Margaret to understand. And Nick was talking about this the other day, or we were talking about it on Monday, and he was like, well, but GTR could be faster. And Nick's got a project where he's dealing with 50 million records. That's not uncommon for Nick right now to deal with. Has to do with voter registration, things like that in the United States. The United States is 300 million people, of which, I don't know, a third of them are probably eligible to vote for whatever reason, right? Or half maybe, right? Because half the 300 million are kids or whatever it is, right? So, or maybe more than half. The point is it's a lot of records. So when you're dealing with that many records, GTR would probably be more performant, but Big Valley Aviation doesn't have millions of helicopters or millions of mechanics or millions of time entries. So just, even if they grow the company into 30 or 40 employees, they'll never be that big. So you could script it with a inner find, jump to T21, then perform a find over there for what you need. It would probably be the simplest thing to do. So I need a sub summary over here. So I'm going to go layout, setup. Nope. Layout, part setup. Create a sub summary. Create a sub summary when we sort by the ID discrepancy. Okay. And I'm going to say ID discrepancy, foreign key, right? Because that's remember, we're in the time entry, so the primary key and ID and the time entries would be an ID time entry. Any other IDs are going to be foreign keys in there that are put in there as part of the building of the relationship. I hit OK. Now the sub summary will ask us, do we want to print above and below? I think Margaret in this case will end up doing both, but I'm going to say print the sub summary above first. And in the part above, what I want to do, and I'm going to say done, and I'm going to, can I zoom in on this? Oh, there we go. Zoom in a little bit. So there's the sub summary right here. I'm going to drag this line down and I'm going to make it bigger. Okay. I'm not going to be too worried about these vertical lines. We remember we wrestled with this 2-3 weeks ago, and all of us thought we could fix it, and we couldn't fix it, and I don't know why. And we all beat Ruben, everyone had ideas, suggestions. We tried about 5 or 6 different suggestions. None of it worked. So what I want to do is I want to put the discrepancy up here. Okay. So.
Oh, because that's not going to be repeating. So you just need
not going to be repeating. Now, ideally, we would also tell this thing to, I'm not going to work on the auto sizing, but it should auto size itself up here. The body parts will auto size. I don't know if the sub summaries will auto size, right? Like you can build a report where, like you didn't do it in here, Margaret, but these could be, should collapse up and they only take as much room as they need to take, right?
Yes, and I was trying to do that and it wasn't working for some reason.
Well, yeah, but you have to continue to finish to try to, I mean, if you're stuck, you could always come to the live stream and ask.
Yes.
Right? Right? Because if I do it, if I'm over here, I'm just going to pop a new window. Once again, I'm going to pop this. I'm going to go back to the home screen on this one, go to browse mode. Once again, this layout's in browse mode. This one's in layout mode. I'm going to go to work orders. I'm going to come down to like the test record that we have somewhere, wherever it went. We'll need to see if we can make that a little darker. So if I go to right here and I hit this button here, and once again, I've got this supersized, like supersize my Happy Meal. I print this and I print PDF. These are going to be variable size, right? Generally, they should be, right? Boy, I didn't variable size that one at all. That's supposed to be variable size.
I think it is.
Let me go over here to discrepancies. I'm going to come down to this one, and I'm going to paste and return and paste and return and paste and return. So there's a pretty big description there. Let's try it again and see what it looks like. It should.
Let us discover that I've actually, oh, okay, it is variable size.
So, so the bodies are auto sizing based upon the, it's like if you have these are elastic pants here that will be bigger if you need more girth units. If you need more sizing, like this one here has a pretty big description, it takes up more sizing. Margaret had not turned this on over here yet, so that's another little bug I pointed out. But what my question and my comment to everyone else is that will a sub summary support that, right? And my question and my answer is, off the top of my head, I don't know. But I'm going to move these up a little bit, like that. So I'm going to have the discrepancy up here. And then for the time entries, it's going to be very small. It'll be the person's name. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of this. I'm going to put the hours in right here. and the date, right? The date could never be a paragraph. The person's name can never be a paragraph, right? I can put this, I guess, kind of over here, and I can indent it, right? Does that make it sense? It'll look kind of indenty or something, if that makes any sense, right? The labels up here are not going to match really great, but I'm going to move this up, or I could move it. Well, for now, I'm going to move it off the screen for now, okay? Because I'm thinking that I have a couple ideas of how to make this look nice. So, so I try to move a body part up and it won't because it's being jammed up by this stuff off the side. I hate that. So I'm going to move this up out of the way, move it up out of the way.
Oh, is that why it won't go up sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I
Yes.
didn't realize it took that into account.
It shouldn't take any of that crap into account. In fact, this is, what does it say over here? This is a head and header.
It's telling you about the hidden header because those swap out depending on whether or not it's just a single part versus a.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these items here so they don't interfere for some. I think those could also interfere with auto expanding, right? Just so you know. So if you're having problems with that, and it also could cause potentially problems with these lines too. Maybe that was one of our problems. I don't know. But these items all here are up above in this section up here in the title header. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to browse mode. Now, why does it look like so what we want to do is if you're going to walk someone through this process, when you're, it's not showing the title header, it's not showing these other things because you're not in preview mode, right? And normally what you do is you'd look at it in preview mode or you'd output it to a PDF, okay? What I want to say is I want to sort by the ID discrepancy. And so what I want to do is go to that script and they're going to want the total on here too, but for the moment, let's just go to, so the script is 10, what was my number I had on my piece of paper? It's 1087. So I'm going to go to script 1087. Here it is right here. Now, I'm not going to duplicate the script. I guess I could, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a comment change on it. So I'm going to just see what this does initially. So sets a bunch of variables, spawn new window, go to window. Oh, I did it the old-fashioned way with a find command. I didn't use a GTR.
Yeah, let's say I don't think I recalled a GTR existing inside the script, but I wasn't sure.
Well, it was unnecessary because we don't need it for, and it's super fast, right? And this is easier to understand because GTR, you have to think about this right here, is going to match the ID work order, and then it's going to do NECA request, and it's going to omit the title sections, okay? And then it pops us on L16. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this line right here. I'm going to comment out the original. I'm going to change the new line to go to L16A, which I think was down at the bottom, okay? So that should get us close. Then it performs a find, checks if there's a found set error, then it does a sort. The sort here is important because the sub summary will not be displayed unless the sort it's dependent upon is active. So a sub, I'm going to say this again.
Wait, what?
Okay, a sub summary, if I double click this over here, I want you to read what this says. Read this out loud.
Sub summary one sorted by that. Okay, so it won't summarize anything unless a sort already exists.
In parentheses underneath this, it should say, this will only show up if sorted by that.
Okay, so, and the sub summary by existing doesn't automatically force a sort, so when you script it, you have to script the sort,
Correct.
right?
There's a sort in here, but my guess is that you're not sorting by the ID discrepancy or whatever. You're sorting by a sort number, which, yeah, you'd sort by, that's interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if I put, that's an interesting challenge with this. I'm going to put the ID discrepancy right here after it. Then I'm going to put the date of the time work, the ID of the date. So where's the date? The date of the work. That'll sub-summarize it below. Let me try this. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit save. I'm just going to run this line of code over here. If I can be over here, save it, I guess it's saved. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to try to run this. Press the button, run this one right here. 1087. Oh, yeah, right there. I wrote the numbers. By the way, the customer can't see these. These are little notes that tell me what is being called, but they're hidden unless I'm an admin level credential, privilege set. So I have all sorts of little helpy things on here for me after being a FileMaker developer for all these years, coming back and reminding me. That way I didn't have to do the debug thing, except to figure out which layout was affected. I had done it here. I'd forgotten I did. That's a really handy little trick we do that. So the screen's a little more junky for me as a developer. The end user doesn't see some of these little notes like that, right? Makes sense?
Yeah, they don't see any. I think they just see the
Whoa, look at that. I pressed it. Now, the rub is that we set it up so this is a sub-summary, and these are the line items that are attached to that basically this group. These are all these have the same item up here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then this is the next record, and it has these. And then this is the next record, and it has one. The problem is that we really need to think about, it's a little rough. I'm gonna bring this over here. What I want to do is I'm going to put a really hairy black line. What I could do, okay, I'm going to do this in stages. How are we doing on time? We're doing good on time. I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to say the line thickness. I'm on the line. I could maybe, yeah, I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to hit, that's the data panel. This is this appearance panel. The line thickness, I want it to be like 4, and I'm going to make it kind of black so it's really super obvious to people. Okay, so I'm going to go to browse mode. It'll be saved. Oh, that's nasty looking, right? And then, wait a minute, where was that at? Hang on. Oh, it can't be there. It really needs to be, it really needs to be between this one and the other ones. And so I could put it right here. Then you'd have this leading black line up here, if that makes sense, Margaret. It would start off with a black line, okay? So I'm gonna go to browse mode. Let's just try this again over here. Can I, that's fine. I'm gonna get rid of that for the moment. Close that out down here. Let's just run this again. So here we go. We'll try it. 1, 2, 3, run. Okay. Now, clearly the between the black lines goes together. Does that make intuitive sense?
Yes, that does make intuitive sense.
So anyway, the short version of the conversation is that now these work together. These are great. These are all working together just fine. However, the customer goes, well, I need the total. And, oh, by the way, notice it's variable height, Margaret. You see that? The variable height has been kind of restored. See that?
Oh.
Yeah, because I think over here, once again, the items on the side were interfering.
Okay, is that because I did the check mark?
The problem is that we normally assume, like, if I'm going to make a copy of this, I put it over here. We assume that this won't interfere with anything over here, but these lines, these body part, I always call them body parts. These layout parts, body parts sound much more like NCI, CSI, crime scene investigation. We got body parts. They extend in here invisibly, and that matters, right? So if I'm down here and I want to drag this down, that works, and then let's see, it moved it. But if I put it right here and I want to move it up, see, it's stuck because it sees it right there. See what I'm saying? So the stuff on the right, my problem with the lines not lining up could be related to that, Margaret, just so you know. So here's the rub. So over here, these are the entries. Would be really great if below the entries, we totaled everything up. It'd be great if we totaled everything up. So how would we total everything up? Well, we could put another sub-summary part over here. You're like, eh? Okay. If I go to part setup,
you can stack sub-summary parts?
You can stack unlimited numbers of sub-summary parts. But not only can you stack unlimited sub-summary, because they could, like, think about if you had a report. Show me all the stuff that's done by the state of California. So it should do is California at the top and then ident everything. Show me all the records that have to do with Carlton. And then it's Carlton or by last name. So Carlton, these are the 10 records. Ruben, these 55 records. Top Cat and his famous Pussycats, right? These 85 records. So you can put tons of sub-summaries. They only display if you sort by their activation field over here. A subsummary part only is shown if you sort by if you identify it by
So if you could like add like 100 of these, and if you don't bother to add all of their sorts into the script, only the one that you made the sort for is ever going
correct,
to show up.
correct, correct.
Okay, so could you do like a list of if statements, I guess, where you do depending and you change the sort and you do.
Yes, yes, yes,
That
yes.
wouldn't have occurred to me. I would have just made different layouts for each of them, to be honest.
Well, things could get unsavory and out of hand, but yeah, if the layout, if the reporting is largely the same and the body parts largely the same, you just want to have it subsorted differently, then yeah, absolutely. If you go, I don't want to, yeah, I mean, you could, I don't know how many subsummaries are over here in their system, but let's just go with this for right now. I don't want to get to, but you could have subsummaries, and the subsummaries can be variable size. They can be small or giant or whatever. Now I'm going to do subsummary when sorted by, what was the one before? It was by ID discrepancy foreign. So I'm going to do it again. Richard, you did another one. I can put two. I tried to put it above. It won't let me put the two, but no, I want to put it ID discrepancy. I want to put it below. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I did twice in a row. Stupid. Hang on. Below. So this subsummary will only show when you're sorted by ID, and this one will only show. So I have one above and below. Why would you have one above and below? Because if I have a field in the system, and I'm going to go in here to fields real quick, and I'm moving this down because you guys can't see, but I got this zoom up here, has this menu bar across the top that's kind of obnoxious. I'd love to make it go away. Time entries. Do I have a summary field in here? I don't have a summary field in here. Summary fields are dangerous, very dangerous. But summary of total time for the records. So you say, I'm going to create a summary field. Okay. Once again, I use these selectively and only on layouts where they're important. And I say create. It's a total of hours worked. There's hours worked and there's hours worked overtime. So this would be straight time. We call straight time, Margaret. And I'll call it straight time, ST.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll say change, and I'm going to duplicate it because you're going to want to do you want to do overtime too, overtime, OT. And then I'm going to change that, but then the calculation for that one will be total overtime for that discrepancy. And then I come up here, date, hours worked. I'm going to call it. So we built this thing initially. And of course, like anything else, like, hey, since you're keeping track of straight time, we need to keep track of overtime too, right? Because no one told me that, right? And then, of course, I should have thought of that. 34 years of doing this, whenever you track time, like if Ruben calls me at 3 a.m. in the morning and says, I have an emergency frog problem with the FileMaker server, I require you to get out of bed and come help him, Ruben's going to pay double time for Richard to help him with his frogs, just to be clear, right? I would expect all of you, except for a couple of you who really love me, you just do it for free. But you get the idea, right? So straight time, overtime, I'm going to hit OK. These are summaries. I'm going to hit straight time. I changed it. I'm going to bring this up here. I'm going to say OK. It's now going to rename the one field, add 2 additional fields. This is on a FileMaker server. Now I drop these in here, drops them on the body parts. That's the nightmare. Okay. I'm gonna put this down here in this body part. I'm gonna call this summary of, hang on one second. That's OT. Total OT. Okay. And it's probably not a giant number like that. That number is like really beefy. So I'll put total OT. And then I might do one. I'm just gonna get rid of these. Move it up. And then I'm going to take these 2, duplicate. Actually, that one's got a border on it. Let me get rid of the border. None. Okay, there we go. I'm going to duplicate this. And these those are, they don't have overtime in here, Margaret. So yeah, that's another one here. So you have straight time. Yeah, we have to find a way of labeling that, right? So you have, this one's going to be summary of the overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Or straight time. Total straight time. And then you have total overtime. And really, if this is over here, it should be probably over here. Well, that's the count. This is the name. This is the date. Then we should have the straight time here, and if these should be aligned right. Let me align right on those. Align right. Then I'm going to do this one, duplicate this one. This should be the OT, if they have any for the day. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this bar to the bottom of this. So that will delineate the break between the two groups. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go to browse mode.
Wait, did you want to copy the bar or just move?
I just moved it down. We'll see how it looks. I'm going to get rid of that one. Come to this one. I'm going to press the button. 1, 2, 3. What do we have? This is the we did. I worked on it these days with these times, and here's the straight time and overtime.
Okay, that looks much better. And that's more understandable.
Well, okay, as opposed to the other one, which we've overwritten now, because this is the new one.
Well, no, we duplicated it still exists.
We could run it if we want to, but yeah, that was horrifically confusing. This one makes sense now.
Yes.
Oh, see, now it broke across the bottom. See that one right there? Broke across the bottom of the page.
How do you deal with that?
Okay, go to layout mode. We're going to go to, we're in the right layout part setup. We're going to say, allow part to break across field boundaries. Page break after every occurrence, page break, restart page numbers after every occurrence. One of these is what we want to do, but I'm not sure if it's on that or try the body change. Page break before every occurrence, no. That would put a record on every page. Page break after so many, you don't really know. It's their variable height, right? Restart after page numbers. Allow part to break across page boundaries. No. I don't know that you can force the sub-summary not to get lost. Change this one. It shouldn't orphan the parent. The setting I would be is don't orphan the parent body or the parent record, right? Because here's the deal. At the end of the day, I'm going to cancel on this. I'm going to hit done on that. I didn't change anything. This body here will be displayed. This will be displayed once. This will be displayed one or more times. This will be displayed once. These three together here are family. In quotes, they're family, right? They go together. I don't know how to tell these things not to separate each other out, if that makes sense. I'm not sure quite how to do that. But once again, that things that you play with fill, turn the fill off on that. So that way it looks better. This can go up. There it goes. Those are two in line there. So back to browse mode. So yes, so we close that. We come over here, we run it one more time. So I clean that up a little bit. There's still an alignment problem there, right? But it's starting to make sense. So if the customer sees this is back to that piece of paper I was talking about, right? So it was the idea that you had a big description. You have to be able to scribble out on paper, and then the time entries. And then on here, you'd actually put one more. I didn't really articulate that to him, but I knew he'd want the total at the bottom. And that's what I did. So I think this solves a lot of the problems.
And it looks nice too. Well, I can tweak with it more to get it to.
What do you, questions from anyone? People lost?
Could you also use a layout calculation instead of adding a field? Question mark.
Oh, yeah, that's a new thing, isn't it? Who asked the question? That's a good question.
That would be Ed Burkle.
Ed, yeah, layout calculations. Okay, layout calculation instead of what, Ed?
Instead of adding a field. So.
Oh, for the summary?
Yeah. Could you do that?
To be very clear with everyone, I am not, the layout calculation objects, LCOs, are new in the last 6 months. In fact, they came out when we were at pause and error. They introduced that. Let me see, Ed. So if we say insert, like over here, like I'm going to start putting some text in. Let me just put some text in here. And I say insert a layout calculation. Well, here's the deal. You'd have to do a summary. Get summary. Returns the summary field for the current range of records when the field is sorted by the break field. Okay, I'm going to try to see if this will work. I'm going to say straight time, summary of the straight time, when sorted by the ID, this one. I'm going to say okay. Only summary fields are allowed to be the first argument. So it wants the summary field. So it wants this right here. So summary field. So it's going to get the summary. Oh, but I had to, okay. So you see what happened. The get summary calculation function is dependent upon getting us out of the summary field that you've defined. If I had to define the summary field, you'd have to, see, that's the thing with the way summaries work. So this is one of those like little complicated deals. I'm going to put this one right here. I'm going to come down a little bit, Ed. This is a good question. There's another one of those. There's also sum. Sum will total the total of a repeating field. Don't use repeating fields. It also gives you the total of a set of related values. So if I was on a parent record and these were children records, then this would work. If you're trying to total the records in the found set, you've got to use a summary field and then also the get summary. Now you could write a script that would total it, like we had the found set, then write some sort of looping script. But you could define, like, okay, so for example, the trick with summary fields, there's nothing wrong with summary fields. Displaying the summary fields willy-nilly on a layout is where you get in trouble, because when you display them, then they start little stopwatch beach ball. That's where summary, but defining them, I like to define them frequently and not put them on a layout, and then I grab them with a script. I could grab them with a script when I decide to, because I'm precisely controlling when they grab them. If I say, get this value, FileMaker then is going to say, well, before I get it for you, Richard, for the script, I got to calculate it so it does its thing, but I'm forcing that to happen when I tell it to do it, which is the idea about making performant applications. If someone presses a button and there's a delay, right? Margaret, we have a bunch of comments in chat, by the way, on Zoom. I want to make sure you're addressing them.
I am looking at them. Yes, there's another comment mentioning that you could also have a self-join relationship and then use the summary of the related items.
Holy shit. All right, that's true.
I don't know what a self-join is, so.
It's where a relationship connects to itself, right? So you'd have T21 and you connect to T21 through ID. Let's try that. Let's just try that. Let me cancel this. I'm going to go to field definitions. Whose suggestion is that? Whose suggestion is that? Because that is not.
That was Scott Kane.
Scott Kane. There's Scott. Typical Scott. Of course, he hangs out with Nick. So whenever people hang out with Nick, they get smarter. So I've got T21, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. That one's all italics, which is weird. I'm going to duplicate it real quick. I'm going to say duplicate button. I'm going to double click over here. Staff. I'm going to go to that Big Valley. I want to go to, it's called time entries, right? Time. So we're connecting to itself. I'm not going to get all clever with it. I'm just going to call it T21 Delta. And it'll be by ID discrepancy foreign. So this is a self relationship, right? So every record can see all the other ones of that. So I connect that to that. So that's a self relationship, right, Margaret? Does that make sense? I'm crossing streams here. I'd probably move it up and resequence it, but I'm going to leave it right there. Is that okay?
Yes. Why would you do this exactly?
Because he's trying to not define a field.
Yeah, but how would this avoid the field definition?
Well, I just did a self relationship, and now we don't need we could do the LCO, right? We'll go back here and say insert a layout calculation. I can say summary, sum function, the total of the related from T21 Delta, total me all the hour straight time. Hit OK. Oh, hang on, I need another parentheses there. And then, so there's that number there. So this number right here, which I'm gonna, just because we're having a moment here. Scott, good one, Scott, by the way. You guys are smart. I like the smart people here. I'm gonna make this smaller, okay? I'm gonna duplicate it, kind of, and what I'm going to do this one is overtime. So I'm going to say insert layout calculation. I'm going to say, give me the sum. Because remember, sum works across a relationship. So he did a self relationship. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. The problem is that if butterflies and birds is in here with us, her head just exploded. So it's a little more advanced. There's overtime, total overtime, close parentheses. So these numbers, okay, I'm going to click that and bring it up here. That number and that number and that number and that number should match. Okay. So I'm going to go to browse mode. I'm going to save it. I'm not sure what's happening. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to run the report, see if it works. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Scott Kane. A second way of solving the same problem. I don't always explore that, but we hadn't talked about. So you basically had a table occurrence connect to itself. That makes sense? So,
Yes.
because the sum function, the SUM function, only works across a relationship. So he said, well, screw that. Just relate it to itself and make it work. It does. So you could do it this way and not define a summary field. Once again, the summary field is not a problem unless you put it on the screen. I will also tell you, however, that summary fields are pretty fast compared to other things. I don't know how much time FileMaker is spending to calculate that 15 versus that 15. This one might be faster. It might be faster, okay? But the thing with summary fields is that you don't want them willy-nilly firing. But this layout calculation, this LCO is on the screen. It's every time I go to, I'm over here, and every time, that's the thing you got to think about. If I'm in layout mode and I go to browse mode and I do a sort, like right now you don't see anything in here, and I do a sort by, let me go to T21. I do a sort by this, okay? Now these things are going to start firing and doing things. So the question is that an LCO on the layout is going to be an immediate action sort of deal. Code to Go says, save yourself a field, cost yourself a table occurrence relationship. Okay, Code to Go is doing exactly, okay, Code to Go, you have several good comments here. Let me spend a couple minutes with you. Code to Go, what's your, okay, you're okay with your name. You told me your name before. I forget your name. And don't take it personal, but one of the great contributors here, like a lot of you here, I'm just calling him out. You save yourself a field, but you cost yourself a TO. Which one's better? I honestly couldn't tell you, right? The way I would decide is which one's easier to explain. I think summary fields existed many years ago before they were actually even released. Summary fields go back. I started using FileMaker Pro 2 before there were even relationships. Summary fields were in there at that point. Summary fields go back to dawn of time. Dinosaurs, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we did the Pony Express and all that stuff, there were summary fields. It's a very good comment that we save one thing, but six in one hand and half a dozen in the other. What's the difference? The other comment that he said, the same thing that I asked, why are the italics in the defined relationships? I think it's a related table, related thing. I thought so too, except I looked at it because whenever I'm presenting, I see little things that are like, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Because right here, if I zoom in on this real quick, and I go back to my arrow key, this one belongs to big value aviation discrepancies. And this one over here should be a related file, but it's in the same file. So I'm not sure. And this one that we just did is a local file too. And it's italic. So I'm thinking that's a bug. You're saying the same thing I did. And I'm like, I don't want to say why it's italic because I thought it was an external file reference or ODBC or something. And that those aren't that. So I'm thinking this version of FileMaker might be a little buggy. But once again, that's neither here nor there. But hot air balloon cans, it looks like external reference to itself since it's the list. It's not the current file. I'm not sure what happens or why. Quick observation. Yeah. I'll go to File, Manage, External Data Sources, move this out of the way. Yeah, I don't understand that. We'll have to chase that down. That's a path to itself, so it sees itself. Huh. And that is the path to the mobile app. We've done the mobile app where they take pictures and it feeds in. So, all right, everyone, I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you learned something valuable. If you have questions or comments, you would like to see us cover a specific topic in reporting or something, please send me an email to support@rcconsulting.com. Thanks.
No.